Combat. It's easily one of the most interesting aspects of the upcoming Hogwarts Legacy game. But up until this point, all we've known about the system are bits of information we've been able to glean from trailers. Well, that's all changed, my friends, because the good folks at Avalanche Software have given us our first real taste of the action, and we're here to break it all down. I would be remiss if I didn't start this conversation by talking about the developers' approach to combat. If I'm being completely honest, it's a pretty traditional combat experience, but instead of swords and bows, we're rocking wands, and that alone makes the combat that much more interesting. In the gameplay showcase, we got a chance to experience the Crossed Wands, a dueling club within Hogwarts, and really the training grounds you, as a player, will be able to tap into to hone your skills against target dummies and other students. It's a really clever way to introduce a tutorial system into the world organically and helps prepare you for the other dangers present in the world. One of the most interesting bits of information we learned is that in Hogwarts Legacy, there will be over 20 slottable spells. We've seen a good number of these throughout the trailers, but knowing how they work systematically is such an important aspect of the player experience. At any given time, players will have access to 4 spells on demand, but the developers made it clear that the player could tap into more spells at just the push of a button. We didn't see this in action, but they heavily implied once unlocked, players will have multiple pages of spells that they can access. However, it's unclear how far this freedom goes. There was no mention if spells would be hot swappable in the heat of combat, but that's something we'll be paying close attention to. It's a big deal, especially when you consider that each spell, in theory, will have a specific use case, and being able to swap those around on the fly will be hugely important. I think it makes sense from a lore perspective to make all spells available at all times. We wouldn't be much good as witches or wizards if we could only remember 4 spells at any given moment, so I'm optimistic that we'll have complete access, or at least more expanded access than was showcased in the gameplay preview. If we jump ahead into the action, we get our first look at shields. Enemies we encounter throughout the world will have different magical shields, and these will all be visualized in an array of colors. Those colors give you, as a player, an indication of how to break the shields. If an enemy shield is purple, you'll need to use a purple spell to break that shield, exposing the target to any damage. If the shield is yellow, you'll need to use a yellow spell. We saw in the showcase yellow, red, purple, and silver spells, and these relate to the different fields of magic, like control, damage, and force, but I would imagine there are more we just haven't seen yet. Once a player pops the shield, then it's a pretty standard combat experience. Every spell after that deals damage to the targeted enemy. You can lock onto the enemies, but it did present as a much looser lock-on system than some other games, not completely taking over the way your character positions and views that target. We also learned that not every attack is tied to a major spell. We got our first glimpse of basic shots, or the equivalent of a standard attack in the Hogwarts world. This would be the same as using a light attack with a sword. It's not going to blow anyone away, but it's essential for stringing moves together, creating those combos, as well as helping you connect your various moves as spells go off and on cooldown. One question I've had for quite a while now is, does combat tap into a resource? And the answer is no. Yes, you do have a health bar, but on the combat side of things, all your major spells are tied to cooldowns, not a specific resource, and given that spells come off cooldown quickly, based on the footage we've seen, it should make for a faster-paced experience. We saw this play out in real time during the dueling club. The Avatar was taking on 3 other students, and the action plays out pretty quick, which is actually a bit surprising. One way the developers are accounting for this is by giving the player a sort of incoming attack indicator. For all intents and purposes, this is a wizard's spidey senses, but it's part 2 of this system that really intrigues me. If timed correctly, players can deflect an enemy attack by tapping a certain button at the right time. Or, when timed correctly, hold down that button at the same perfect time and counter the spell entirely, redirecting it back at the enemy. This actually brings me back to my time with Assassin's Creed 2, becoming a master at just countering enemy attacks. I can't honestly say if this will be a great system or one that wears thin quickly, but I love the idea that the devs are trying to make this the most engaging combat system that they can, positioning it to be familiar but still entirely unique given the nature of wizard combat. The final aspect of combat is something we didn't get to experience but is there, lurking right beneath the surface, and it's this special resource that builds up as you execute attacks and chain combos together. I have to imagine this is the equivalent of your special meter, and once full, you'll be able to tap into some of the most powerful spells in the game, possibly even the unforgivable curses. It's hard to say at this point, as the developers were adamant on keeping it a secret. I'm curious though, what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments section and share your thoughts on this super secret element of the game. There are still aspects of Hogwarts Legacy combat we know nothing about, but this taste of the action was enough to get me re-hooked on the game. Let's be honest, we were going to be covering Hogwarts Legacy regardless, but the developers' transparency as we march towards launch has been a breath of fresh air. The world in and around Hogwarts looks incredible, and the familiar yet new combat experience looks to be something players will get some great fun out of. I'm interested to see how the different difficulty settings change the combat experience, but that is just something we'll have to wait a bit longer to explore. Anyways, friends, I think that's a good place to leave our conversation for today. There'll be plenty more to talk about in the weeks and months ahead as we get ready for that February 10th release date. So if you love Harry Potter and you're interested in playing Hogwarts Legacy, do me a solid, drop us a like and consider subscribing so you never miss a new video. I'm also excited to announce that Legacy Gaming has merch. Check out our brand new website, legacygaming.gg/shop, to pick up a shirt, hoodie, or hat. New designs will be dropping in the future, so be sure to stay tuned. My name is Cody Atkin from everyone here at Legacy Gaming. Thanks for watching, and play on.